take that thank you page as an opportunity to strike while the iron is hot and give the students more information, get them excited about things, drive them to those next steps. It's a balance of having the number of fields you need to get that record into your CRM so they can get on your nurture track, and then not overwhelming them and requiring too much information.
Every email, text, ad, and interaction can either move a student closer to enrollment or send them looking elsewhere. Today, we're talking with Lisa Starkey-Wood, who's spent more than 15 years helping institutions turn that first moment a student expresses interest into a decision to enroll. She's here to share the most effective, budget-smart ways to keep prospects engaged and excited all the way to the finish line. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So many of our listeners live and breathe nurturing prospective student relationships, so I know they're really excited to hear all of your insights. I want to start by setting the stage for effective prospect nurturing. What's the very first thing institutions and those of us in these enrollment roles need to think about when planning a prospect nurturing strategy?
What I always tell people is to really map it out by stage in the process. And so whether it's, charting it out on a whiteboard, charting it out in a spreadsheet, really looking at those different tiers that you need to have communication for, and then segmenting it by audience within each one of those buckets. So like when you're looking at inquiries, you want to make sure you're considering your first year students, your transfer students, your adult learners, and you're really having some specific messaging in each of those segments. So it's really important for us to realize that there's different questions, even though they're within that same bucket. There's different questions, different needs, different things that are important to them, and also different timing in terms of when we need to be reaching out to them. So I always say kind of chart it out by each of those stages and don't try to tackle it all at once. When we were at EduWeb and we showed, here's what you might want to consider for an inquiry track, an applicant track, an accepted student track, it's a little bit overwhelming for people to see all of that at once if they don't have that in place already. I talk to our clients about start with what is most important this time of year, like this time of year, wanting to have your inquiry track up and running. We were working with a client who it was December and we were talking about building out their nurture plan and they didn't have a yield email communication plan. So I said, okay, this time of year, you've got to focus on that more than anything else. So biting it off in chunks because it is a little bit overwhelming if you try to do it all at once too.
I like what you said about their questions and their timing, because the example of we're thinking about an inquiry stream during yield season is a good one. But I think sometimes we struggle too with, okay, here's all the brand pillars that we want to get across. Here's all of the points all the themes we need to cover in the communications that we're sending out and the messaging we're sending out. But you're really saying to sort of frame it, start with the audience. Who are they and what are their needs? What are their questions?
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when I was working in admissions myself, I had an admissions counselor who faculty always like to ask, what's your elevator speech? What do you tell every student when they ask you what's different about this institution? And people don't always like this answer, but it's really different depending on who the student is and what they're interested in. So yeah, I think it's really important to have those specific messages that are things that the students are really interested in and wanting to know. So it's a little bit different, what you're talking to an adult learner about versus a first year student coming in right from high school.
I love the idea of building in questions or opportunities to get to know the individual person as part of the prospect and inquiry nurturing strategy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I really like that too, because I think then you can make it more personalized than ever. I know it's a little bit difficult sometimes when it's like an RFI form and you're collecting kind of free form text, obviously fields, but I think there's lots of opportunities to really make it personal and ask questions and try to collect as much information as you can, especially in those one-on-one interactions, that you have on the road and when admissions counselors are meeting with prospective students when they're visiting campus. There's lots of great individualized questions you can ask at those touch points.
One of the other things that is really difficult around this whole idea of prospect and inquiry nurturing is students come in from so many different points now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it used to be a lot simpler. It used to be they came in from a college fair, you purchased their name from College Board or from Ancora, right? But the multitude of ways that a student can come to us has changed, and sort of wrapping our arms around those moments, because those moments matter. The first moment matters no matter where the student comes in from, where that moment occurs. So what advice do you have around making the most of that first moment, despite the fact that there's so many different ways and places that moment is happening?
Well, one thing that I always advise everybody on is, if it is a form that they're filling out, really having some great information on that thank you page. So if they are filling out your RFI form, or they are coming to you from a digital campaign and a campaign landing page, a lot of times when we're going through the prospective student journey ourselves, we see just this message of just thank you, we'll send you more information. But I really tell the institutions that we work with to take that thank you page as an opportunity to strike while the iron is hot and give the students more information, get them excited about things, drive them to those next steps, and not just providing the next step we want them to take is apply, but they are probably not ready to apply because they're filling out an inquiry form. So really giving them more things to get excited about with what's going on campus, following you on social media if you've got some really great student-centric content. So really taking that time when they're either on your website or they've clicked on an ad and they're now on your campaign landing page to give them some more of that information that they're craving. And then a key thing is having that day zero follow-up. However they're coming to your institution and getting into your CRM, making sure that you're immediately following up with them. We see a lot of times where it's several days before anyone is getting in touch with that student. And it doesn't really matter. I always tell everybody, it doesn't matter if you're a first-year student, a transfer student, or an adult learner. We as adults really aren't much more patient than,
No,
16
none
or
of
17.
us are. Look at the world we're living in. No one's got any patience.
I know. So we're probably
if we
worse.
reached out to an organization and they waited a few days to get back to us, what would we be saying about that organization, right?
Exactly.
We don't get a pass because we're a college or university.
It's so true. And I always use the analogy of, if you're sitting there trying to sign into something and you forgot your password and you put in your password reset request, like you're sitting there hitting refresh. And when people are asking for information, they're really wanting that immediately from us. So it's really important to have some sort of immediate follow-up, and whether it's a phone call or, filling out the R5 form or meeting us on the road or walking in on campus, really making sure that first interaction is giving them something personalized and the information that they're craving.
Well, now too, there's opportunities with generative AI here too. So for instance, when you fill out a form, you could be providing absolutely custom and personalized information based on what the form inputs were to the student on that sort of quote unquote thank you page. Tools like Halda, I know that there's others out there, can serve that up to the student. But then of course the follow-up is important. Do you recommend, even if it's something simple, it's better to do something simple to acknowledge the outreach more immediately, if that's all that you can do? Because I think sometimes what we can't wrap our heads around is responding to every little thing we just discovered about a student, if they did a form fill as an example, and getting the exact right message to them via email or in a phone follow-up. So is it better to just trigger something that acknowledges, we got this, we see you?
I think so. I agree with that, because we've had people ask us that question, like, if we fill out a form, it doesn't get over to our CRM for a full day or 2 days later or whatever. There's like this lag in the data. And so I said, well, a lot of times, your form fill tools have an opportunity to just send a more generic message. And there's some things that are relevant for any type of student. Put those links, in that thank you. Just acknowledging, like, we do mystery shopping for all the institutions that we work with as part of our scopes of work, to help them kind of see the journey that a prospective student takes and identify these things that we can work on through the process. And we see so many where it's just, you don't even really understand if your form has been submitted, or it's just, just a little thank you that pops up within that page. And so I think, if getting them something immediately, so they're not sitting there wondering, did they ever hear from me, and on to the next institution, is probably more important than getting it absolutely perfect and pulling in dynamic content for every single field that you've collected on that form, if you know what I mean.
Now you've got my mind going, because I'm wondering if there's anyone out there who's doing something really creative on that first message that's not maybe at all custom to the student, but it's just, hey, it's really cool that you got interested in us. We're going to be in touch. That's not creative, what I just said. But I wonder if there's anyone out there. So if anyone out there has a really creative way, or if now you're thinking that way like I am, can we get to something that stands out? Okay, yep, I know they've got my info, and I know that they're going to be in touch with something more, but it maybe will a chance to stand out, because we know that's one of our challenges in higher ed.
For sure.
Certainly.
And making it a fun message, like you said,
Yeah, something fun.
And congratulatory, like you've taken the first step, get excited. You know, if you've got great YouTube short videos, link to that content, use the content that you're working on creating across all the different platforms and channels that you're using to really engage those students while you've got their attention, because they're raising their hand telling you, hey, I'm interested. So get something out to them.
What's up, bro? Check out our YouTube. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. But it would be fun, you know, something like that would catch attention. There's someone out there who's doing that. I want to hear from you. Let's move on to talk about sequencing. So we've talked about this for first moment. How do we then approach mapping out a nurturing communication plan that moves the student through their process, as we were talking about before, and also doesn't overwhelm them? How do we strike that balance of helping them continue, but also we do want to get our messages across in a way that's not overwhelming to them? What's the approach? What do we do?
That's the perfect net question, because a lot of times we do see a great day zero response and even like a day later, but then nothing for weeks or day. You know, there was one school that I had a really great day zero, a really great follow-up the next day, and then I got nothing else for like 2 months. And so really thinking about what are those messages that, again, mapping it out by audience type. So plotting out, like if it's a transfer student, they're worried about, you want to tell them about, you know, your overall brand, what makes you different, but you also want to answer their key questions like, how are my credits going to transfer? How long is it going to take me to complete my degree? So I try to map it out on a continuum of like, here's the messages that this particular audience is interested in. And then the timing in terms of getting them something immediately, having a pretty regular cadence over those first couple of weeks, and then more drawn out, maybe like every 3 weeks or something like that. You've got a message. And I try to have a multi-channel approach, because we know not everybody's opening their emails, not everybody's answering their phone calls. So making sure that you're really reaching them across all those different channels. And that includes through your digital campaigns as well, and the messaging that you have there, kind of looking at it all together. And I used to plot it out on a whiteboard in our conference room when I was in admissions, and I'd have like the inquiry track continuum and the different messages there. And then how is that being communicated via email, your direct mail, your phone calls? Really map it out. And if you were in our EduWeb session, I had kind of a continuum of the inquiry track where you had direct mail pieces in the middle. And then I lined up, okay, here's your email messages, here's your texts and phone calls along the bottom, because a lot of times we don't look at it that way, and we don't realize that we're sending students like 5 messages within 2 days, because you're not mapping it out with all your channels on the same spectrum. And actually somebody in our session was like, oh my gosh, I just pulled this up because his department didn't manage this, but he could see it on the back. And he said, we're sending 33 messages over 6 days to students. And he said, is that too many? And I said, yes.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. That might be worse than having an RFI form with 30 fields.
Yes.
Whoa,
yeah.
Man. Wow. I would love to see the data.
Yeah.
The analytics on those emails.
So he said,
wow.
Is that too many? And I said, well, I'll put it to you this way. I love Ann Taylor Loft. They're my favorite store. But if they send me 30 some messages over 6 days, I'm probably unsubscribing. So I think a lot of times we don't, because we're so busy in higher ed, you're moving 1 million miles an hour, focusing on this class next year, the year after. It's taking the time to pause and actually see that spectrum of the communications and the messages that you're sending out is so important.
And we've done all the work to set it up, and sometimes it's really hard to go back and revisit
Right.
what we've been doing, or maybe we added on things and we didn't review what was already happening. So it's easy to happen. So if you're in that boat, you're not alone. You're not
No,
alone, but there's
you
a
are
way.
not. That's why we do mystery shopping, we call it, because so many of our clients have been like, yeah, we have a day zero message. Yeah, we have a nurture track. And then when you actually fill out the form, you realize things might not be working as you thought. We found
Yeah.
one client who their form couldn't be submitted in mobile.
Ooh, okay,
So,
yes,
yeah,
this is why.
mystery shopping things
If you,
pop up.
yeah. So go secret shop yourself, goodness, if you
Right.
need to.
We were just on a call
Go
the
ahead.
other day, and it was for a new major that a client was adding, and I pulled up their program page on their website, and the new program was actually missing from the academic dropdown. So just things like that
Yes.
we don't think of unless we're actually there doing it ourselves. It's so important.
Yeah, there's with so much to do, it's easy to lose track of every single thing you got to check
Right.
off for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, if someone's not sure what those questions are that we need to be answering and what the needs are from the student perspective, what do we do? What advice do you have?
Talk to your student workers in your office, your student ambassadors, and ask them. I remind ourselves a lot of that when we're working on things, designs or content. We're really not our target audience. So having those voices, the student voices, are so important. So, just ask them what was really important to you. We used to do surveys sometimes at our events for incoming students, and we were doing a website redesign. We actually did surveys at our open house to ask students about their experience with our website. So talking to students, the insights that you get from meeting students on the road, having students in your office, but, talking to your student ambassadors too, they're really a huge bonus, I think, of the field of admissions. Those students that you have in your office are really, really valuable.
I'd say too, if you can, go to a college fair with one of the admissions counselors and just write down the questions that they get asked, and you're going to have the sort of structure for a communications flow in about 5 minutes. I'd say.
100% agree.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah, go on the road. Plus, it's fun to go on the road if you haven't been on the road in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What are the data points we need to be looking at? How do we know if our nurturing is working?
So with a background in admissions, I always want to be looking at the enrollment numbers. I mean, it's really important to be obviously looking at the campaign performance data, like impressions, ad clicks, conversions, RFI form completions, email open rates, click-through rates, things like that. But really looking at the data and understanding how was your performance this year compared to last year. I always sat down with my admissions counselors every week and looked at their markets. Are you tracking ahead? Where are we behind? Where do we need more effort? And if you've got, particular campaigns for academic programs, really looking at those buckets and admissions throughout the year rather than letting your nursing campaign run all year and then saying, oh, we ended up with 5 more students. If you're looking at it really strategically throughout the cycle, knowing applications are up in this area, but they're down in that area, let's do a little extra push here. I think monitoring all of that is so important to the overall success. And when you've got new goals, like new programs launching, a lot of times clients say, oh, we've got this new program and we've got a goal of 30 new students for the spring. So helping them lay out a plan for success to hopefully get those 30 new students, but then those regular checkpoints with them where I'm saying, okay, how do applications look? How do deposits look? What can we do if they don't look good? Or what can we continue to improve even if they do look good so that they look even better?
It's really smart to break it down that way, because going back to the beginning of our conversation, as you said, we don't need to tackle every single nurture stream right now today. What is the one that we're going to work on? And then what is the enrollment data that we have to monitor to see its influence? So if we've just built something out for nursing, you can run your whole enrollment data report just for nursing and see how that's happening. What's happening with your inquiries, what's happening with your application rate, and so on and so on. If it's by region, maybe you've built out a whole flow for students who live on Long Island, because they're special on Long Island. They're some of my favorites. So I'll say Long Island. how are those students performing? What does their funnel look like? And also go talk to the admissions counselor. If you're on the marketing side, go talk to the admissions counselor about the responses they're getting to the emails.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. And that's even when we're talking to our clients in our regular monthly report meetings, we talk about, okay, here's how many conversions you got. Now, what are you seeing on your end? Are those qualified conversions? Are we targeting the right people and shifting strategies as you need to? It's so important. And that can help you too with your admissions counselors. Their time is precious. They have many priorities in a day. But if you're looking at the data that way and you're like, oh, Long Island, really important to us, or New York 9, New York 10, whatever markets you're looking at out of state, if you're down there, then maybe that's where you focus their efforts on for the next couple of weeks to try to boost those numbers and have that really individual high touch outreach make a difference.
I really, really like this idea of focused effort because I think when it comes to nurturing, it's the whole of it that makes us pause.
Yeah.
Because when you really start to look at the whole of it, it feels overwhelming very, very quickly. So I like this idea of even specific audience over a short amount of time, what's happening there and what impacts are we seeing. And those you can learn from those metrics and those outcomes and apply them moving forward to larger campaigns, for instance. So I really, really like that approach. Okay, Lisa, I want to end with 3 rapid fire tips for our audience. Okay, are you ready? 1 underused tactic that can make a big difference in prospect nurturing.
Student to student outreach, having those students that are in your office help out with phone calls or emails and making them a part of that process, because prospective students really value hearing that student voice, I think, and faculty too. If you can get a faculty member on the phone, I know it's hard to do, but it's a huge selling point for students and families.
I think once faculty do that kind of thing and they find it rewarding, they help sell it to others though. So if you can find that one friendly faculty member that's willing to do it for you, it'll open up a lot of opportunity.
It really does. And then they've got like that story of, oh, I made the connection with the student. Yeah. They're here. They're an all-star for sure. Yep.
All right. A quick win teams could implement next week to improve their early stage engagement.
I think one thing that was really eye-opening for the people at EduWeb was some of them, it was really hard to find the RFI form on their website. So making that easy to find and actually looking at your RFI form and seeing what are fields that, like you said, if there's 30 fields, do you really need all of those? It's a balance of having the number of fields you need to get that record into your CRM so they can get on your nurture track, and then not overwhelming them and requiring too much information.
I always say this too. Once you ask it, they expect you're going to get information on it.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So what are you actually going to send about? What are you going to communicate about? And that's what should be on the RFI form, not everything under the sun.
100% agree. Yep.
All right, last tip. One thing you wish every institution would stop doing in their nurturing sequences.
Well, this may be a double negative, but what I wish they would stop doing is not taking the journey themselves. Take a moment to actually fill out that form and see what you get. Is it what you expect? Was it hard to find? Type in EduWeb, we typed in business program on one of the institution's homepage, and it brought up all their news releases, and their program page is actually way at the bottom of the page. So just do little things like that help you see how hard is it for prospective students to find the information that they're seeking. How can we make their journey easier and more engaging and more exciting for them?
All right, there's your homework, everybody. Go fill out your own RFI form, or try to.
It's a lot of fun, yeah, or try to. Hopefully you can find it.
Hopefully you can find it, yes. And we will add Lisa's slides from EduWeb to the show notes so you can all see what she's been talking about. And I just want to thank you so much for having this chat today, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
And thank you to all who are listening. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to share it and subscribe. I'll see you next time.